Chapter 17. The City Excursion. Kara. The moment I get outside, it is a breath of fresh air. I hope I made the right choice. There's something inside me that itches to go back inside and just watch Blue for the day, but that'll only make him more nervous. He's too skittish. He needs a chance to settle down and get used to the house. He needs time without his master there so that he can relax and acclimate. I don't live very close to town, a good 30-minute ride or so into the heart of the city. Shauna lives nearly at the other end of the city, near the edge of what is traditionally the Magus District. She's always been involved with the landed aristocracy, ever since she was a child and her parents hadn't known about her gifts. They had pushed her to make the ties that would help support her later in life, starting the Who's Who tirade before she was out of diapers. Even now, after she technically belongs to a higher social strata, she still loves her friends dearly. To her parents' dismay, she does like to keep her old contacts, even after they have strictly lost their usefulness. We only know each other because we were enrolling in the same year at the Academia. The administration started a program to randomly assign you to a student as an orientation buddy a year in advance. It's supposed to make sure that you have at least one person that you know when you come into the university. Technically, I am a nobody, a new face and a new name in the crowd. It sets me back more than I would like, but it's not impossible to recover from. The worst that holds me back is no apparent family to hold a banner for. Shauna had told me herself that to the outside eye I look like quite the wild card. No family to speak on my behalf, no true estate, and no ties with the people in my year. I still think it's better than my actual family being involved. I'd much rather come from nowhere. Whatever it is that blesses people with magic, blood, the stars, or some force beyond comprehension, decided that it ought to be rare. A very limited number of the population are magic capable. Fewer still have the ability and position necessary to seek formal training, and with it the opportunities and respect that comes from being a mage. I don't take my position for granted. I applied along with many other people, with families behind them to ease the admission process. And they still chose me to attend their school. It's a point that fills me with pride. I'm glad that Shauna also thought my acceptance an accomplishment worth celebrating. Many others would have seen me as a threat, would have been much less supportive than she has been this past year. I wonder if I would have been able to take it from someone else. I wonder what would have happened if they had matched me with someone so high in their rigidly stratified system that they would have been threatened by an outsider's presence. Many of the mages enrolled in the Academia have long-standing ties with the university. Magic has run in their blood for generations, though there are the years when fate drops a stitch. Magic in parents doesn't always mean magic in a child, and it works the other way, too. The two spheres of social influence intermingle, but are rarely the same. Having magic in your line is supposed to be a blessing. Many families look at it that way, as a chance to propel yourselves to higher status with service to king and country. Magic hasn't existed in my family for as long as it's been recorded. The walk into the quiet marketplace that links the district isn't too long. It's especially nice when the weather is like this, chill on the breeze but sun's shining down on us. If it were summer, I know I would be sweating through my shirt. I can catch a carriage here to get into the real city. I'm just glad that the university is actually further outside the heart of the city than most would like it. It puts it closer to me. They must need all that open space around it, just in case someone really screws up. The ride isn't all that bad, but the nervousness doesn't fade. I think it's only getting stronger the further away I get from the house. I'm worried about Blue. I didn't really leave him with anything to do. I should have left him with a book or something. I'm worried he might hurt himself or start panicking without me there to help. The thoughts churn in me until my notebook is out and I'm making lists of things that Blue needs. Things that I need to handle before something bad happens. He needs to be looked over by a medical professional. He needs clothes. Stars, he needs shoes. He needs some feeding up, but that's a more long-term goal. My mind goes over the way he panicked today. Wouldn't take his own food, needed to be held and pet. A faint smile ghosts over my lips as I remember his purring. So utterly genuine and sweet. I'll have to coax more out of him. The blush that came over him was really too much. The carriage drops me off in the bustling city. There's too many people to ever truly relax here. I can feel their eyes sizing me up. People barreling over others just for the heck of it. I don't know how Shauna can stand it. The Coralle estate is a large, sprawling property in the north, but Shauna confided that she always liked her little apartment more than her parents' house. Though to call it a little apartment is a bit of a misnomer. She owns the building and lives in the top 3 floors, running a more or less exclusive bed and breakfast for her friends that visit from out of town. She's always loved playing host. The building is a dark green brick masterpiece with gold facades curling dramatically up the sides. There's an imposing wood-stained door easily twice my size with a polished brass turner that I know to ignore. 3 strikes from the door knocker and Nala opens the door for me. She's a kind woman and an old servant of the household who came with Shauna when she started living in the city. She's taken care of Shauna for years from what I've been told, and is quite attached to the young mistress. She waves me upstairs and lets me know that Shauna's been expecting me. She's waiting for me on the lowest of her 3 floors, the reception area. Reclining on the chaise lounge in a fine emerald tunic with sheer material wrapping around her arms, she looks every bit as regal and high-born as a noble of her class should be. A living painting. Perfect, even when there's no one around to see. "Kara, you came!" Her bright eyes fix on me. "Yeah, Shauna, you have my books. If you thought I wouldn't come all the way across town for a book, you don't know me very well." She huffs dramatically, but I know she's playing. Either way, the joke ends with a roll of her eyes before she turns and calls out further into her home. "Ande, come out and say hello!" There's a split second where I'm very confused. We don't collectively know an Ande, and Shauna will usually give me warning before she tries to introduce her friends to me. But as the man comes around the corner holding a tray of tea and sweets much too small for his frame, it clicks that this must be her familiar's name. There's a twinge in my guts as I remember the number of familiars that have already piled up under Shauna's care. I don't know how the realization hadn't occurred before now. I don't know if Shauna's actions stem from ignorance or a general disregard for the life she has at her disposal. "So, how's it going with him?" I try to sound casual as I take a seat next to the lounge chair. "Oh, Ante is quite smart. He knows many of his commands already. We were just working on a few of them before you messaged you would be coming over." Ante finishes depositing the tray on the low table before us and goes to kneel at Shauna's feet. His eyes and face are carefully blank as he settles down, crossing his hands over his knees before he stops moving entirely, holding position. "He only has a few more to work on before he's ready for school. I've got a good feeling about this one. He takes the lash well. It makes him take instructions even better," Shauna continues. I get the distinct idea that she's trying to impress me in some way. Like she's proud of only having to correct his behavior slightly with the beatings. She turns to the familiar now, and that distinct, uncomfortable feeling settles down in my chest. "Come on now, Ande. Show Kara what happens when you don't listen." When he only looks up at Shauna and doesn't move to complete her orders, I can see the air change. Shauna's eyes narrow and her lips purse in disapproval. "No, that won't do. Come on, you were so obedient earlier. Show him what he will have to do if his familiar misbehaves the way you do." The hesitation stays in his eyes, but his body moves to complete her orders. He rises swiftly and strips off his shirt before going down to his knees again, showing his back to us. He doesn't have scars like Blue. He has more muscle mass, but it's the fresh reddened stripes cut into his skin that make me pause. "Shauna, what the hell?" I can tell that she's caught off guard by my outburst, but I can't bring myself to care. It's not the wounds themselves that catch me off guard. After spending the evening at the cages and the night trying to bathe and patch up Blue, I think it will be some time before I start to expect people's skin to be wound-free. On Ande, however, it's where the wounds fall. The lines cross in dangerous areas, and it occurs to me that nowhere in the book did it say where it is safe to hit. Shauna's never had to think about where her blows land, what they can do to the body underneath. The injuries land dangerously close to the neck, overlap across the spine, dance dangerously close to the kidneys. "Shauna, these are dangerous places to hit. You have to control yourself and the weapon you use." I mean, it's just a little training tool. I can hear the backpedaling in her voice. It doesn't matter where you got it. When you're doing this, you're wielding a weapon. You have to consider the damage you're doing. You aren't just hitting skin, there are muscles and organs that you have to account for. You can't just slap down your whip. Well, I didn't know that. Honestly, how was anyone supposed to know exactly how to hit and where the first few times around? That is such a trial and error thing. No, Shauna, it's really not. You shouldn't hit someone. You really should never hit someone. The very least you can do is make sure you're doing it safely if you have to. I can feel the anger leaving me, the heat of the argument deflating what little energy I have left for this situation. You're right, she says after a long moment, and we have to sit still in the silence we've created for much too long before she dares breach it again. How's your little kitty? You didn't bring him over. Don't tell me he's died already. She frowns and puts on a pouty face like she's trying to make like we're still joking. No, he's alive. Just let him stay behind for some more rest. The response comes out very ground out, and the shift in tone is not lost on Shauna. It is not lost on the familiar either. He flinches away from the hard tone, but shifts a little forward so he's in a mobile position. If I had to guess, I'd say he's trying to make sure he will be able to protect his mistress, even after what she's done. I try to hide my reaction to that in my teacup. Touchy, touchy. Her voice comes out lilting, but cautious. I didn't mean it that way. I was reading the care book, and I realized how you managed to kill all those other familiars. Shauna perks up at that. There's a glint in her eye that I don't know how to feel about. Ande flicks an ear, but otherwise doesn't react to my news. Ah, so you finally admit I'm right. It is hard. There is no way someone could get through their first familiar without a disaster. No, Shauna, that's not what I mean. The book is wrong. I can feel the headache coming behind my eyes. What do you mean the book is wrong? People have been keeping familiars for centuries. This is how it's done. All the instructions are drawn-out ways of torturing someone to death. I don't think there's a way to keep someone alive going entirely by the book. By the stars, Shauna, do you really think that starving and beating someone every day wouldn't kill them? When you're trying to find the balance that is going to keep them alive, it's just bending the rules enough to allow for survival. Shauna's hand goes in Ande's hair to scratch the tousled brown mop that sits there. It's silent for a good long while. I wonder if what I'm saying is settling in, or if Shauna is just taking her time coming up with the proper insult before kicking me out the door. Maybe you are right. Either way, he really did get lucky. She continues at my raised eyebrow. Your kitty. It's just that if anyone will make sure he lives, it'll be you. That's more than I ever thought I would get with her. I wonder if we continue to work together, whether she'll listen. Hell, I wonder if my words will mean anything directly after I leave this house. If the second I leave is the second her whip comes back down, I don't know what more I can do without making the situation worse. I do know when to quit. I leave Shauna's house with my books, feeling more shaky than ever. I've never yelled at Shauna before, but I hope that she takes my advice to heart, if not for the sake of her familiar, then for the sake of her academic record at least. It's been less than the few hours I promised Blue alone, so I wander in the city for a bit and stop into a small shop for a pepper, a clever little drink popularized after its arrival on this continent a little over 3 decades ago. Places serving the stuff had popped up like weeds after that. The merchant who originally worked out the trade agreement must be wealthy beyond belief. These cafes were nice places to sit and read regardless. Despite the animate gargoyle whipping up a batter for pastries in front of a group of mystified children and a dwarf chimera that seemed to be trying to solicit a petting from each person sitting down, it's a remarkably serene shop. The perfect place to sit down and gather my thoughts. A shot of calming draught is added to my cup on request, and the drink is served hot and fresh, foam done up in a little swirl to make it look like a leaf. I'll have to make note of the name. It's a good cafe. I let myself get consumed in my books, the ones I've stolen back from Shauna, making sure she hasn't dog-eared pages or spilled or marked something. I try desperately not to think of the marks on Ande's back, or any of her other attempts. I am through 3 of the books before I can feel eyes on me. In retrospect, I should have recognized it a little earlier. Distracted as I am, however, it takes a few minutes for me to register the person standing at a not very respectable distance from my table. I wait another 3 pages before it begins to grate on my nerves. I look up to the person, ready to tell them off, when my voice dies on my lips. It's a familiar. A white rabbit familiar with black, splotched fur, as though someone had let their pen drip onto a clean sheet of paper, though not as random. The black segments are neatly sequestered to specific body parts. It looks like she's wearing eyeliner. She's dressed nicely, prim and proper. I hope that means she's got someone nice looking after her. Hello? I don't know how to initiate conversation with her. She startles at just that, and I deeply regret putting the fear in her eyes. I'm sorry. Her voice is quiet, but no less sweet. Don't be sorry. It's fine. Is there something I can help you with? Did you need to tell me something? I try to sound inviting, non-hostile, and safe to speak with, and she seems to respond well. She doesn't turn tail and run away. Well... What have you found here, Blanc? A woman comes up behind the familiar, only a half head taller, but much more imposing. Her long, nearly hip-length black hair almost absorbs the light, and her eyes are a deep, piercing set jade with a glint that sets me off balance. Mistress, the books, they look like yours. Oh, clever, clever. Those are the same books that I have. She turns to me, and I find myself under her direct scrutiny. I feel like a butterfly about to be pinned. Ah, someone else going to the Academia. My name's Genevieve Fontaine, but I am sure you are already familiar with my family's name. In any case, you'll be learning more once the year starts. Stars, it's so exciting to be at the very start. I've been waiting for this since I was born. She doesn't offer a hand at her introduction, but she doesn't need to. I've heard of the Fontaine family. Everyone has. They're prominent landowners that hold high judicial offices. Magic's been in their blood for hundreds of years. They're one of the few noble families that choose to stay well integrated in the legal system of this country, even with their magic. It's wonderful to meet you, Miss Fontaine, and Blanc, but Oh, Blanc's not her name. I haven't named the little thing yet. Have you ever heard of a Blanc de Hotot? I can't say that I have. Well, you couldn't have. It's a new breed, brought to me from Uraf. One of my uncles thought it would be an excellent familiar for this year. I think she is. Do you? She begins running a hand through Blanc's hair, and I have to smile politely and nod. I just want to leave. I've lost track of time in this shop. Blue's had enough time alone at the house. I should get back. An absolute treasure, to be sure. I hate to be leaving you when we've only just met, but I really do have to run. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to get to know each other during classes. I hope that my smile is enough to extract me from this painful situation without suspicion. She smiles and waves me off. I pray I've not disturbed some sacred social code in my haste. Genevieve seems like the exact wrong person to piss off before the year starts. By the time I find myself in a carriage headed back home, I'm exhausted. I just hope Blue has had a better time than I have.